So welcome everyone. My name is Callie Alman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm AEE's volunteer coordinator and super excited to be here today. Welcome to the How to Use the DEIB Field Guide webinar with Sky Gray. Dr. Christine Norton, Denise is sitting right across from me, and Rita Yerkes. The people here that are running this webinar tonight also presented a workshop at last year's conference that was very well attended. So we're super excited they're doing it virtually this year. Hopefully they'll do it again this year at this year's conference. The international conference is happening in Madison, Wisconsin at University of Wisconsin at Madison, November 2nd through 5th. Registration is currently open. So we'd be super excited to have y'all join us at this year's conference so you can come get more of this wonderful goodness and hang out with these lovely people at the conference this year. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off, let our facilitators introduce themselves, and we'll just get going. So thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thanks, Callie. Sky, you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's great to be here with you all today, talking about the DEIB Field Guide. Hoping that by the time we're done that you have some amazing and powerful takeaways. Currently, I'm a program manager at Valley of the Moon Children's Center in Northern California. Previous to that, I was executive director of the Santa Fe Mountain Center and have been a longtime member of AEE and doing work in experiential ed in the outdoor field.
Awesome. Rita, Dr. Yerkes.
My name is Rita Yerkes. I've been involved with experiential education for quite some time, taught at George Williams College of Aurora University, and then started my own business, Yerkes Consulting, and work with boards on development, DEIB development, as well as fund development and board development these days. Have always been committed to inclusivity and learning, and continue to learn and be challenged in the world that we are living in today. So I hope that whatever we are able to do together today, you'll be able to take and use, because that's the most important thing.
And Rita is also one of our amazing editors on the DEIB Field Guide, along with Dr. Mitten, who is a couple squares below me. I'm sure you'll get to say hi too. Denise, do you want to just say hi since you're one of our editors?
Hey, I'm Denise Mitten, and I'm also at Princeton Blairtown right now. And it's a beautiful, beautiful weather. I'm faculty emerita from Prescott College, and it's hard to explain how deeply I feel about the work we did on this book, the whole project team led by Sky, in honor of Nina Roberts. So it was an absolute privilege to be able to see this through, and it's an honor. So thank you.
I'm glad you're here. Thanks. So I'm Christine Norton, and I also had the privilege of playing a small role in this project, thanks to Sky and our wonderful Dr. Nina, who we'll talk more with you about. I'm a social work professor at Texas State University and calling in from Kyle, Texas, which are the unceded lands of the Tonkawa and Karankawa people. I know we're all calling in from different parts of the country and maybe even internationally, I'm not sure. I did want to just let you all know what you signed up for. The first thing is community building, right? We always, when we get together with AEE, we want to create that safe space. We want to share lived experiences, and we want to facilitate authentic, courageous conversations. The whole goal of this book and also this webinar is to really advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work. In particular, yes, in our world, and in particular in our particular corner of that world, which is the experiential and outdoor profession. We want to introduce and facilitate how to use this book. If you don't have a copy of this book yet, you can order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Thrifty. The AE website has information about it. But it's okay if you don't have it yet. For this webinar, we're going to make everything accessible for you so that you can still participate fully. And then we really want to make sure that we are taking the time, and it's really for us in really still processing, I think, our loss, and also upholding the memory and vision of Dr. Nina Roberts. So I am going to turn it over to Sky to talk a little bit more about our beloved Dr. Nina.
Thank you, Christine. Just take a moment here. I want to acknowledge that we have some very important people in this webinar with us related to Nina. Dr. Colette Roberts is here with us. I want to welcome you with an open heart and a warm welcome. Also, Alyssa Roberts has joined us, and I want to welcome you as well as we continue this journey of uplifting Nina's legacy and the incredible gifts that she's left behind and with us. So I'm so glad you both are here.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
all.
thank you.
Okay, there they are. Yes. So yeah, so many of you, some of you may know that Nina and I have known each other over 25 years. We were avowed soul sisters through and through. She touched and changed my life in ways that I cannot fully explain or express. I really appreciated what Denise shared earlier, because this project through the grief process of losing Nina was definitely, a gift that kept on giving as we created like very ambitious timelines to be able to get the book published by the AEE conference, where Nina was honored, and that where now there's a award named after Nina and her honor. So again, just when we think about Nina, and when you hear Dr. Nina, she's often called Dr. Nina, and that's what they called her at San Francisco State University. And Rita will be talking about some of her scholarly work in just a bit. But I want you to think about somebody in your life who's been a Dr. Nina to you, or maybe a soul sister, somebody who's really challenged you to become better every single day, to expand your horizons of what it means to be a DEIB advocate and a social justice warrior. Think about who those people are in your life. And then I want you to think about Nina Roberts and the legacy that she has left behind for all of us to continue to carry. Here are a couple of pictures. There's Alyssa on the left-hand side of your screen. That's my daughter, Sarita Joanne Gray. She's on the webinar right now. This is one of our vacations that we took in Monterey Bay shortly right before she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and that's what we lost her to. And so as we move further into this webinar, I also wanted to bring forth a resolution honoring Dr. Nina S. Roberts from the California State Park and Recreation Commission. I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts because it was a powerful honoring of her. And Rue Mapp, if those of you who know her, was the one that was behind this movement to get this memorialized forever in the history of California State Parks. So, resolution honoring Dr. Nina S. Roberts. Whereas the State Park and Recreation Commission reserves the privilege of honoring those individuals who have made a significant contribution to the state of California and the park system. And whereas, as we are aware of the many accomplishments and contributions of Dr. Nina Roberts, including her research in the areas of race, ethnicity, culture, and natural resources. Whereas Nina was nationally known for her work developing connections to healthy lifestyles and the outdoors with urban youth, girls, women, outdoor programming and leadership, youth development, race, culture, and gender issues. The list goes on, but the last one I'm going to read is super important. And let it be resolved that the California State Parks and Recreation Committee extend its most sincere gratitude to the considerable, far-reaching contributions that Dr. Nina brought to California and to the parks in which she played and explored. So with that, this is just one of many of the honors that Nina's gotten since before she passed away. She got a lot of honors, and since her passing, she's also received a lot of honors. And this book we dedicate to her and to her family and to her ongoing legacy.
Beautiful. Wow, Sky, that gave me the chills. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd love to talk about Nina.
Yeah, we all agree that even though we're tackling really difficult issues in this work, it's important to do it with joy and laughter. You know, she was just a light in any room that she was in. So one of the things that I think is really important as we do this work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is that we attempt in our imperfect human way to try to create a space for transformation. And as experiential educators, that's what we do. We invite people to spaces where they experience connection to themselves, to each other, and to the natural world. And so we, and Sky, remind me where this particular list came from, that it was from UC
UC Berkeley. UC
So
Berkeley.
I'm sure you all have seen or used various types of brave space agreements, but we wanted to just put a few things out there. We are going to be later in the webinar inviting you to join some small breakout rooms to kind of really interface with some of the material that's in the book after hearing from one of our authors. And so because of the nature of, what we're discussing and how it can be very personal, and also how it can really activate for some people, especially who have experienced marginalization, who have experienced racism, who have experienced depression, it can really activate our central nervous system stress response. And so as facilitators, we want to make sure that we're doing our part to maintain physical and emotional safety in our Zoom space together with some of these guidelines. And we're also asking and inviting you to be checking in with your own body, that really we know that there's a lot of wisdom in our own bodies. And so as you interact with others in the room, if you're feeling like you need to take a deep breath or turn your camera off or anything that you need to really regulate and take care of and send that love back to yourself, we just invite you to do that. So the other thing I would like to do, it's probably a little bit too big of a group for the limited time we have to go around and do introductions, but we wanted to invite you to use the chat feature to put in the chat your name. Again, I had mentioned when we started that if you wanted to, you could also change your name on the Zoom link to add your preferred name or pronouns, but add your name, maybe where you're calling in from, what you do, where you work, and then if there are any other things that you need from us or from the group to add to these brave space agreements, that maybe there's something that's not listed here, we really welcome you to do that. I know that some of these are a little kind of kitschy, I guess you could say. We have the Aretha Franklin rule. Hopefully you understand that that is a little bit about respect. Again, trying to keep it a little bit light in how we create the space so that actually we can go deeper when we break out into our small groups. So Callie, you probably can see the chat better than I can. So if there is anything also throughout the webinar that people, like a question someone asks or anything people bring up, could you just maybe alert us to that so people are feeling heard? Okay. Wonderful. Actually, I can pull it up too. So yeah, go ahead and feel free to just put that information in the chat. That'd be great so we know who's in the room. And I'm going to turn it over to Rita to talk a little bit more about Nina's amazing legacy.
Well, good evening, everybody. And again, glad that you were able to carve out some time to join us. I met Nina in the early 1990s, and she was at an AEE conference and very eager to meet other people. And we talked quite a bit, mainly after the conference day was over, about our mutual experiences as well as our goals and objectives for experiential education and the outdoor fields as well as classrooms. I think you can go on Nina's website and see all of the different publications that she did as well as research. But I want to take you with me just on a walk of a young Nina who, was growing up and was going to be everything that she could be, and probably at some point ran into some brick walls here and there, as most of us experience at certain times. And just developing an eagerness to learn all she could learn and be all she could be. And I think the thing that sets her apart as a champion and a warrior and a scholar is that she was out in the field for quite some time before she decided to pursue advanced education, get her doctorate, and then start teaching at San Francisco State University. I think the amazing thing about Nina's drive was that she saw the differences that people experienced as well as herself and wanted to do something about it. And so her research, her efforts were always in trying to be sure that people were included, and if they weren't included, why they were not. And not only doing it, but sharing it with those of us in the field so that we could improve our programs and our approach. And so she is known for her social justice work, her work on racism and ethnicity, her work on girls and women in the outdoors, but most of all, giving to us all the time with her printed word as well as her example. And so again, I invite you, if you have a chance, to go and read some of her work. And there are I think, references in the book, as well as I believe her website is still up, if I'm not mistaken. And I think you can find it there in that slide. So with that, turn it back, I think, to Sky. Yeah.
Yep, it's all you, Sky.
Right on time. Thank you, Rita. So how did this passion project come to be? Well, it was an interesting kind of evolution that took place in regards to Nina being very sought after in terms of being able to compile and publish a book on the social justice in the outdoors. There was a number of publishing companies that were pursuing her. One in particular was Routledge. When this started to came to be, Nina called me and said, "Hey, I would like for you to join me on this project. I want you to get your resume together and your cover letter, and it looks like we're going to have a meeting with Routledge in the next couple of weeks." This was all emerging after Nina had gone through a variety of treatments and was on the upswing. And we were all thinking that she was going to beat this, what she would call her cellular imbalance, the cancer. And as we were gaining momentum to actually move this project forward, she had health setbacks that unfortunately could not, we couldn't continue in the same vein that we had anticipated and hoped for. So what we did do in the fall of 2021, after we met with Routledge and really solidified some of the takeaways we wanted from that publication, is to set back and regroup and really look at what can we do, what is realistic, and what would be really helpful to the field to concretize some of these concepts and to further the courageous conversations that are needed in order to talk about race, equity, inclusion, belonging, diversity. And so she was at my house at Thanksgiving, and she picked up an Outwards Bound reading book, and she started reading it, and she read the poem Bits and Pieces, one of her favorite poems, as her family knows. And as we were kind of sitting with that, and I videotaped her and having deep conversations about what could be in terms of this publication, we came up with a field guide, like something like, we were looking at the book and imagining what that could look like, and who we could gather and garner to be on the team to actualize her vision and our vision, moving this project forward, albeit in a different fashion, in a different form than a formal textbook, academic textbook. And so everybody that we contacted, she started making lists of who she wanted to write the stories. We talked about, Christine Norton came in and started talking about, what about if we ask people to share their lived experience, their very sacred lived experiences that could help launch conversations and that could reflect on who we are as a field, who we are as individuals and professionals in the field, and who we are as social justice advocates in the field. And as a result of that, we were able to get this team together, and 4 of the people on the team are on the call right now, or on the Zoom. And you've met all of us, and there were other people as well. Bobby Beal was a part of that, as well as a plethora of other people who spent time, money, energy, and incredible heart to actualize Nina's vision and wanting the outdoor spaces to become more safe. And not just safe, but brave spaces for all people to come together and grow together and heal together and make the world a better place. So that's the genesis of the project. And it actually happened. And we met our deadlines, and it was a labor of absolute love and passion for Nina and her legacy. And I am forever moved by that. Yeah.
Thanks, Sky. Rita?
So basically, when we got the call, all of us got the call at some point about joining the team. And I have to just say what a privilege it's been to work with all these extraordinary folks. who pulled this together in 6 months. And it's just what's just amazing, though, is how the book lives and breathes in the hands of practitioners out in the field, in the boardroom, in the classroom. I mean, it really can be used in a variety of spaces. So we have all these folks to thank for all of their efforts and their time and what have you. And you can read about them in the book as well. But I think we want to get to the meat of the webinar. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you is that the three editors, Karen Warren, Denise Mitten, and myself, we've done a lot of editing of academic work, but when it comes to doing personal experience reflection papers, it's extremely important that you honor the author and make sure that whatever editing that you do, you improve the reflection paper, but you don't change the voice and the content of the author. And so when we started this project, we had nothing. We had to go from ground zero, and we had a list of people that Nina had prepared, and we invited people to submit a paper. And again, our deadline was August, and we asked for papers in, I believe, the end of March. So you can imagine how we just sort of prayed that people would respond. And we got 40 authors to actually be brave, share their voice, and be a part of this extraordinary field guide. And we're very privileged today to have Dr. Kanetta Sugar McFarland, who is going to read her reflection paper, The Woods.
I'm going to stop sharing just so that we can maybe pin Dr. McFarland, if that's okay. And I apologize that I did that prematurely earlier.
That's
There we
cool.
go.
So hi y'all. I prefer to be called Sugar, but as I said, we need to acknowledge the doctor part. I'm still paying those bills. So I'm a clinical psychologist in Columbus, Ohio. I'm also the Systems of Care Equity and Inclusion Coordinator for the Center of Innovative Practices at Case Western. I always say I deserve an extra dollar when I can say all that at once. So equity and inclusion work is a big part of like my work and my background. Social justice work is a big part of my work and my background, and it's a big part of what I think that I bring into adventure therapy. In fact, I was just in Africa practicing cultural humility, looking at ways to bring an African dance into the therapy space. So I'm really happy to be able to share my poem, The Woods, with you. And I'll start off with a quote by Bell Hooks. Shaming is one of the deepest tools of imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy, because shame produces trauma, and trauma often produces paralysis. The Woods. I'm a trauma kid. No, not just because I'm a Black, queer, half immigrant, neurodivergent woman that grew up in America. My dad died when I was 7. I often felt different. I couldn't express my feelings about how weird, alone, scared, confused, angry, sad I felt. So I ate them. I had a few activities that helped me express myself: reading and being in the woods. Even though I am a city girl, I was lucky to have a backyard with trees and birds and sunshine. I love being in my backyard. With books, I could go anywhere. I was also a Girl Scout. My mom was a leader, so I went on a lot of campings. I felt normal at Girl Scouts. I made so many friends there, I could express myself. I always knew I wanted to work with kids. I also knew that I wanted to work with traumatized kids. A lot of adults had been nice to me when I was struggling. Who knew I could combine my love of helping others, especially kids with the woods. I was able to watch kids start to feel normal and get their voice, to remove the shame of being different, poor, queer, abused, Hispanic, fat, neurodivergent themselves away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to leave a little bit of quiet space after that. And while you all are breathing, I'm going to put actually a written copy of that in the chat. We'll need to come back to that for our small groups. So you have that in the chat. And we'll have an opportunity to process what's coming up for you in that as well. So thanks so much, Sugar. Let me get us back to our slideshow. So that was powerful. And there are 40 powerful stories of lived experience in this book. And we are super honored, Sugar, that you came and read that yourself. It's the first time I've heard you read that. I've read it several times. I actually used your poem at the keynote that I gave with Sonoma County Human Services this spring. And there was, you could hear a pin drop in the room, but hearing you read it was really special. So thank you for that. So the book, pull it up again, has stories from the field and lived experiences. And so we are hoping that this field guide is something that you can pull out, that you can use with your staff, with your clients, to really generate dialogue around these counter narratives. These are stories that challenge our assumptions, our biases. They open up and expand and enlarge our empathy and our worldview. And so the way that we've been using these stories is to break people into small groups. And if you have, multiple small groups in your staff or your organization, each group can pick their own chapter. For the purpose of this webinar, we went ahead and decided we would use Sugar's poem for all of our breakout rooms because we weren't sure how many of you already have the book. We didn't want to make any assumptions about who has the book. So we're all then able to work from that same place. What we've done is, in just a minute, Callie's going to put us in breakout rooms. And what we've also done, and this is, here is the transcript of the poem. Sorry, I didn't hit send. We've also created some discussion questions, and Sky and I are actually working right now with Michelle Cummings of Training Wheels to create some cards that will go, discussion cards that will go with this field guide. And one of the ways that we're structuring these cards, right, we love to facilitate, is to make sure that we have different levels of questions for people in the group to interface with. So green is kind of like, maybe a little more safe and comfortable for you, not necessarily having to get too deep into your own personal lived experiences. Yellow is a little bit more kind of getting into the content in Sugar's writing, right? And in particular, in this case, we're asking you to really unpack that bell hooks quote. And I put it in there again. And then red, and again, this is all your choice. If you pass, if you pick green, yellow, red, you all can also just have a general discussion where you reflect on your takeaways without using the discussion questions. But red is going to ask you to get a little more into your own lived experience and how maybe you related on a more personal level to what Sugar shared and wrote. So that is what we're going to be doing, inviting you to do in the breakout rooms. I'm wondering, before Callie puts us in breakout rooms, if you all have any questions going into it, just about that first part, kind of what you'll be doing in those breakout rooms.
Maybe we should take off the slides so we could see everybody for a minute.
Yeah, I will do that. Let me say one thing, Denise, before I do that. So on the slide, you can see really what you're going to do is to stop at that bullet point, after that bullet point of reflect on and share takeaways. And then it says, feel free to use the guided discussion questions. When you're using this book with your staff, clients, participants, students, you can then take the next step also. In the back of the book, there are a bunch of social justice quotes. And so you can then direct the small groups to go in and pick a quote that kind of lifts up the takeaways from the reading that they selected. And then there's also a glossary of social justice terms in the background. And so we would encourage you to also get your small groups to check in with those terms. Maybe there's a term even that Sugar used in her poem that maybe people don't understand or aren't clear about, and they would want to go into the glossary of terms and get a little more clarity. We will, after we are in our small breakout rooms, we will take that very last step on the slide, which is to come back and report out to the larger group. So when you do go in your breakout rooms, we encourage you to select a facilitator. And if you would like to use the questions, great, but be prepared when we call you back into the larger space to kind of share some key takeaways from your small group discussion. So before we do that, now that I can see everybody again, any questions, comments? Anyone need clarification? Okay, great. So Callie, I think you are going to put us into breakout rooms, and we'll take about 25 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes to really get into this in our breakout rooms. And then we'll come back as a large group and wrap it up. Callie, do you want to just put me where you need me? Sorry, I thought we were waiting. Love your butterflies. Here comes everybody. Welcome back. So Callie, did we have 3 groups then? Wonderful. I'm going to invite everyone to just maybe before we kind of share some of our key takeaways, just kind of take a deep breath of gratitude for the people that you had the opportunity to join in community with. Hi, Bethany. I just saw you there too. Yeah, just really breathing that in, the words they shared, the stories they might have told. And then I just want to invite each group to share back with the larger group, maybe some key takeaways, as well as some ideas or plans that you might have for how to use this book in your own work and your own lives. Would anyone like to get us started? Alyssa.
So I appreciated having a group of people who all approached the questions differently and similarly, and hearing from people. And I just shared with everybody, our group had a lot of like silence in between to listen and absorb each other's, even though that wasn't a given instruction. And so that was a nice format that I am familiar with from Quaker community. And so one thing I shared, so in the spirit of like the modified Vegas rule, I am not repeating what other people have said, but what I have learned and what I have said. So I shared about, this is also an action, and it involves you, Christine, if you ever have time. I shared about how much I've seen the field grow in the last almost 30 years. And a little bit about what it was like to be a white, early college graduate from Princeton, working in the woods with kids from the big cities in the tri-state area, or New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia, and some individual conversations I've had with co-facilitators over the time about, what went well, and that we also didn't know a lot then, and we weren't trained well to be coming from the trauma and the shaming and the shamed and the kinds of topics that came up there. So I would love a chance, Christine, to talk with you and our friends from that time, and debrief some of that and learn how people have grown and possibly made amends for any of the harm that we did when we didn't know better about how to work with other traumatized people, because I came to the work from trauma, like having experienced trauma, and then wondered if how much I perpetuated that because I didn't have experience in training yet, and that I know that I've done better since. So thank you for the work. I'm looking forward to getting my copy of the book and using it.
Seeing a lot of people nodding their heads when you were talking, and I know I felt that right here. Just that idea of evolving and growing and even accounting for harm that we may have done, even with good intentions, right? Wow. Does anyone else from Alyssa's group want to join and share any reflections?
I just want to say thank you again. I am not an outdoor person, so I'm thrilled that my daughter was and that my other children are. But Nina taught me so much. She didn't really express fear in front of me. I know she had many issues that concerned her and made her fearful, but she showed such strength. And that encouraged me at my age to show strength in various participation in various situations that I came across. And even now, I moved from Maryland. I moved to live with my oldest daughter, Amy, and I'm living in Massachusetts in a very small community outside Boston. And the community I'm in is all white. And my first reaction was, oh no. And will they accept me? And then I thought, you know what? Nina didn't worry about that. And if she did, she never said it out loud. And I thought, I'm going to follow her footsteps. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be friendly. And if they're not friendly back, that's okay. But I walk my dog. I say hello to everyone. And I think of Nina. And I think of the woods around us and how she would love to see all the woods and the animals that I'm seeing, and the coyote and all the other animals. And I think of her holding my hand and saying, you can do it, Mom. Come on. Just go hug that tree and you'll be fine. So again, I thank you all for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Colette.
If I can just take a moment to share a little bit about Alyssa and Colette, if you will, are you okay with that? Do I have consent?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So one of the first times Nina and I were doing some training at a camp in Maryland years and years ago, and she's like, we're near my parents' house. I want to take you to my parents' house. Went over to Mr. and Mrs. Roberts' house, and we drive up into their court, and there's a pride flag just like flying freely in their front yard, and right in the front of the front door. And I was like, wow. She's like, yeah, my mom is my best ally. She's, the president of PFLAG, and stories go on. And then we go to the house. I get the biggest, warmest hug ever from both Mr. Roberts and Mrs. Roberts. And then we go on her back porch and there's more flags. And so I was like, wow, what an incredible mom ally you are and have been throughout her whole life. And she talked about those stories a lot in terms of the strength that gave her and the love and acceptance that she got from you all and Alyssa. Who's Alyssa and Nina were incredibly close, and how much Alyssa supported this project and supported Nina in this project, through and through. So I just want to acknowledge both of you on both of those accounts. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mrs. Roberts, you're a badass.
Thank you.
And I think that ties directly into this work because that's, I mean, you did that for Nina, right? You gave her that anchor, that foundation of belonging, and she was able to then go out and do transformational things. And so that's what we're trying to do for our students, our participants, our clients, is give them that same foundation of belonging, which is that place where that shame and trauma can actually get healed. And then they can go out and do these incredible transformational things. So it's a great example for us as experiential educators. Well, I want to be mindful of our time and make sure we hear from our other two groups. Would anyone else from one of the other groups want to share some of your key takeaways? Mary?
That sense of belonging that Christine just mentioned, that threaded through the discussion that the five of us had in, I actually took notes. That our environment affects our sense of belonging, and then several things that people said are like invitations to us to create a safe space for belonging to emerge, and give people the opportunity to share and to be creative and to share their stories. And I think it was you, Christine, who said that when one woman tells the truth, she creates space for other women to do so. And it was just fun to hear what people are doing in their own spaces to encourage other people to feel a sense of belonging. I love how you connect. I haven't thought of it this way. I love how you connect. Feeling a sense of belonging gives you the power to become a transformer. So nice. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mary. What about our third group? Any key takeaways?
I'll speak. I really like what Alyssa said. Thinking about like what are the ways that we can use like our privilege to be able to help others, and to also to make sure that just because I'm a person of like multiple marginalized groups, that I can't also like be ignorant in terms of how I like see things, take into other people's perspectives. And so recognizing that we all have like this continuous work to do in terms of like making people feel safe and creating spaces where people can feel like they can be brave.
Yeah. So I want to, again, just with the time that we have, let Sky kind of wrap us up with what is actually most important about this time together, which is a call to action.
So often, I hear Nina's voice in my heart and in my head, and I can hear some of our last conversations upon which Christine and others, Sarita, were a part of when we were finalizing, and Alyssa again was bearing witness to, Alyssa, her sister, bearing witness to this project and to the potency that we knew it could create. And this is a great example of that. This webinar that will be shared beyond what we've experienced today. And I think, you know, when I hearken back to, and when I ask for, you know, Nina to really her voice to come through the veil, if you will, what I hear and what she compelled us all to do when she was alive and now in her death is that we cannot we cannot rest on any laurels. We have to take action. We have to be able to identify the isms in the system and structures of race and equity within our organizations, within ourselves. I think one of the last conversations she said to us, and she compelled us to say and do and be, is warriors. Like, pick up a torch, step outside your comfort zone. Don't be afraid. To Nina's mom's point, keep doing the work, because the work has to be done in order for us to create a more just and compassionate, inclusive world upon which we do our work and upon which we continue to compel her vision and her mission forward. So what will be your legacy? You know, what do you want to make sure you're doing personally, professionally, to forward Nina's vision around equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging? And on that note, I'll open it up to our other co-presenters to share their thoughts and wisdom about carrying this work forward.
When you say wisdom, I think of Rita, so I'm gonna let her talk.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that in the world we're living in today, the biggest thing I think the field guide can do in your hands is help people with the fear of difference. Because when there is a fear of difference, there cannot be belonging. And I think what we're wanting more than anything is to feel like we belong. And so it's my hope that we take the reflection papers of people that were so brave to share their lived experience, because it's out there now for everybody to see. And that's you know, took a lot of character and challenge to do. And it's a gift. It's a gift that Nina gave us by pulling all these people together. It's a gift that we got to know her family as well as all of the folks that participated in this, and now you. And so I'm available to you in any way I can be to help in your journey, and I hope you'll be there in mine as well.
Thanks, Rita. I know.
Mrs. Roberts and Alyssa, I just want to make sure we allow space for you if you'd like to share anything in terms of Nina's legacy and carrying her torch.
Oh, okay. Oh, this whole program is making me very sad, very happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you.
So this is difficult, but Alyssa, I know you don't want.
Well, I know it was so important to Nina, and I think her work is what kept her going for as long as it did. I mean, I remember bundling her up and helping her out to the garden and setting her up on her laptop so she could work.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people would have just, you know, said I'm done, or just spent their last days and weeks doing something else. But Nina's work was so important to her, and so it's really, really meaningful to me and my mom and the whole family that her work continues, because it was she loved it.
Yeah,
she loved what she did.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm really, really pleased and happy that that everybody's carrying the torch forward. Thanks.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Does anyone have any final comments or questions? I know also, Alyssa, you kind of said a really concrete action step that you want to take moving some of this work forward. Does anyone else have any ideas like that they would like to share as we close out?
I would like to acknowledge Happy Pride, y'all.
And the recent Juneteenth holiday as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we just want to say thank you to all of you. Mary, did you want to say something?
I was gonna say, you lived what you want us to do. You created a safe space for people to share, and I'm grateful for that. And I have a model now where I can do that in the groups that I interface with. So thank you.
Oh, that's great to hear. That was our hope.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And looks like there's a note in the chat as well. So if you're not reading the chat, tune in. Yes, a huge thank you again to Sugar. So many folks commented on just hearing that in your voice was really, really powerful. So thanks for being here. I know all of you are busy people with lots to do, and most of you, I would imagine, like our beloved Dr. Nina, love the work that you do, even when it's a lot. So we just wish you the best in the work that you're doing. Stay connected to each other, stay connected to the Association for Experiential Education. It is not just a professional organization, it's a bit of a family of sorts, and we welcome you to bring your full self and your full identity to that space. It will just make us better and enrich the work that we're doing to have your voices included. So thanks for being here with us. Thanks again, Callie, for setting everything up. And we hope you will get your copies of this beautiful book and be well.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Pick up your
you.
torch.
Pick up your torch.